in advance, but as I was flying over to good old California, some news broke in the WNBA. And some of this news is actually exciting for fans, and I feel like we have been in the trenches for the past few months covering this CBA stuff, but the WNBA finally released their schedule for the 2026 season. And they posted this press release. It says WNBA slated to tip off 30th season Friday, May 8th. Toronto Tempo makes franchise debut May 8th. Portland Fire opens season and return to WNBA on May 9th. And May 9th includes defending WNBA champion Las Vegas Aces finals rematch versus Phoenix, and Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever hosting Paige Bueckers.
The WNBA unveiled its 2026 season schedule, aiming to project momentum and optimism for the league's future. Instead, the announcement triggered immediate backlash from its own stars. Players like Azura Stevens and Aya Wilson publicly questioned what games would even be played, calling out the timing and lack of clarity. What was meant to be a celebratory rollout quickly unraveled into confusion and frustration, exposing a rare and public internal rift. Rather than signaling stability, the moment cast doubt over the league's direction. This wasn't just a schedule release, it was the drawing of battle lines.
Finals rematch versus Phoenix, and Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever hosting Paige Bueckers and the Dallas Wings. And in this whole press release, there were only two players that were mentioned, and that is Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers. And kind of what I've noticed throughout this whole schedule release is that it feels like the Indiana Fever versus Chicago Sky rivalry is finally dead. It was pretty much dead on arrival last year, but they had them play each other like 5 or 6 times. But this year, the Indiana Fever is only playing the Chicago Sky 3 times. And now it seems like the WNBA has moved on, and they are definitely pumping up this Caitlin Clark versus Paige Bueckers.
The newly released schedule was meant to spotlight growth, officially ushering in the league's expansion era. Toronto Tempo is set to make its franchise debut on May 8th, followed by the return of the Portland Flyers on May 9th. The rollout was clearly crafted to highlight the WNBA's ambitious vision, an expanding footprint, new markets, and surge of fresh energy. It was a confident declaration of where the league believes it is headed, inviting new competition and passionate fan bases into the spotlight. But the question remains, is this enough to mask the deeper issues simmering beneath the surface?
Game is going to be really good, or I can't wait to see them play New York. Like, we do not know who is going to be on which team. We can obviously tell with some of the rookie contracts, like obviously Paige is still going to be in Dallas, but even with the stuff that happened with Angel Reese last year with the Chicago Sky, will she request a trade? Will Angel Reese get out of Chicago? Where would she go if she does get out of Chicago? What will the New York Liberty look like? They have a brand new coaching staff. Like, what are these expansion teams going to look like? And also, even if the players pick up the current offer that is on the table from the WNBA, that's going to change everything. Like, their maximum salaries are going from $250K to over $1 million.
Beyond expansion, the schedule also tees up a slate of explosive early matchups. May 9th alone delivers a finals rematch between the defending champion Las Vegas Aces and the Minnesota Lynx, while a more controversial pairing puts Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever against Paige Bueckers and the Dallas Wings. The league is unmistakably leaning into star power, stacking high-stakes games designed to command attention and boost viewership. It's a calculated strategy, one that puts its biggest names front and center from the opening tip, igniting rivalries before the season even begins.
Money like that gets involved, I could see players chasing the money. Like, are these players just going to stay with the franchise so they can try to win a chip, or are they going to go for what team is going to offer them the max amount of money? And so I think that we're going to see so many moving parts. Like, I predict that this WNBA free agency period is going to be like the Wild Wild West, especially because the CBA is still not finished, so they're already behind on free agency. Like, free agency should have already been started. But I think it's going to be crazy. I think even a team like Minnesota, like, obviously you could see Fee staying there, and you could see Minnesota giving her a max contract, but some of these big time role players, they might try to get more money elsewhere. Like, we just don't know. We don't even know with the...
In a telling marketing choice, only 2 players were mentioned by name in the WNBA's entire 2026 schedule press release, Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers. That omission of others was no coincidence. It was a deliberate shift in focus. The league is clearly betting on a youth-driven narrative, aiming to cultivate new rivalries and ignite fan interest around these emerging stars. It's a strong signal of who the WNBA believes will shape its next era, even as many established names were left out of the conversation.
This WNBA season. However, does that actually mean a season is going to happen? Does that mean that they've made progress in the CBA? Not necessarily. Alexa Filippo tweeted via the WNBA, releasing the 2026 schedule is a key step as we prepare for the WNBA's 30th season and allow teams, partners, broadcasters, and fans to begin the essential planning for the year ahead. The league views the schedule release as a necessary part of business operations that allows teams to start logistical planning, sell ticket packages, also to secure optimal arena dates, all the more crucial for teams who don't own their arenas. And that was something that we talked about a couple weeks ago.
This strategic pivot also appears to mark the quiet fade out of the once hyped, but ultimately short-lived, Caitlin Clark versus Chicago Sky rivalry. After meeting 5 or 6 times last season, the Indiana Fever are now scheduled to face the Sky just 3 times in the upcoming year. That sharp reduction speaks volumes, signaling the league's decision to step away from forcing the matchup. It reinforces the WNBA's active hand in shaping storylines, recalibrating rivalries based on audience response and evolving player dynamics.
I mean, this is typical. I wouldn't expect much different at this point. WNBA players deserve a higher salary and better working conditions. Send an email to WNBA leadership telling them to negotiate in good faith and pay their players fairly. So this was the same day that the schedule was released by the WNBA. And some WNBA players were actually commenting on social media, like Azare Stevens commented under an Instagram post that said the WNBA releases 2026 season schedule amid CBA negotiations, and she just commented a bunch of question marks. And then Asia Wilson also posted on Threads. She said, me looking at
analyzing this newly released schedule feels almost premature, bordering on illogical. The crucial free agency period hasn't even begun, leaving team rosters in a state of flux. How can fans genuinely anticipate matchups or predict player performances when the very players who will define these teams remain unknown? It creates a strange paradox. The future calendar is laid out, but the key characters who will bring it to life are still a mystery. It's a schedule without its star.
Unfortunately, it was just announced today that Minnesota Lynx guard Kayla McBride suffered a torn quad muscle in her right thigh while training with her overseas team, Fenerbahce, the team announced. There is no timeline for her return yet. And Kayla McBride is a big-time player. Like, she is a huge asset for the Minnesota Lynx. And this is kind of a situation. It's so unfortunate, and hopefully she fully heals up before the WNBA season. But this is a situation when I start talking about exclusivity for the WNBA and these off-season leagues. I don't care if it's Unrivaled. I don't care if it's Project B. I don't care if it's overseas EuroLeague team. These off-season leagues are going to be...
The uncertainty only deepens when factoring in potential player movement. Will Angel Reese seek a trade out of Chicago? How will the New York Liberty adapt under their new coaching staff? And what secrets will the expansion teams reveal? Without answers to these questions, the schedule remains little more than a skeletal framework, leaving any in-depth analysis premature and almost misleading for fans. Right now, the entire league feels like a shifting sand dune, constantly changing, unpredictable, and impossible to pin down.